When you heard about this and you're just reeling through all of this in your head, I guess. What do you think the problem was? What do you think the major problems really was? Do you think it's in the pipes? Do you think it's in the building? Do you think it's...
What do I think? I think that, the problem I have with saying that and blaming all of it on the infrastructure, the massive citywide infrastructure, is that, that means everybody's sick. You know what I'm saying? That means all of it. Every building in Detroit will have to be messed up. And then, take a school like Renaissance and Flicks. Those are Northwest Detroit. Those are theoretically, those aren't on the old wooden pipes or whatever we want to say that the downtown is on. Cass King and Renaissance were all built within the last, 15, 20 years. Those aren't old schools. How is the school messed up and the houses around it not messed up? Are they also getting lead poison too? How's the school pipes messed up with the houses next to it?
Right, the houses, yeah.
Again, we talk about new buildings, so I think it's a compilation of, I think the root problem is capitalism, right? Where everything is done to harvest profits, right? So that means that people in power won't speak up because they don't want to piss off the business interests. That means the investigation should be done, but nobody wants to mess up, rat out their friends, people that they know, take responsibility, say, that was our fault that this got messed up. I think that construction work was done, possibly with lead-coated pipes, from cheaper markets. That's possible. I don't know, but how do I supposed to know where investigations are happening?
Right.
But I'm looking at new schools. How do they pipes got lead? King High School, how is their pipes got lead in it? It's a new school.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So those are my questions.
There should be investigation.
There has to be.
Symbol.
I'm not. Even if it's just like an organizational investigation, like what happened? How can we improve this? Yeah. But in transparency, because that's our schools. Those are public schools. We own that.
Right. And you're right. We actually haven't had any investigation at all. Last I know, that they said, we're just going to be checking the pipes, and they blamed it on the old buildings. That's what they blamed it on.
Yeah, so it's like that doesn't make any sense.
And that's pretty much it.
And that's what I don't care. That's not how I care. That's what I don't understand. All the PhDs and Masters of Planning that we have in the city, all the foundations for nonprofits, how is it so obvious and nobody can answer the question? I'm not a very smart guy. If I can see Cass, Renaissance, King are new buildings, how are they in the same condition that Murray Wright / Frederick Douglass is in? How are they in the same condition of International Women's Academy, which used to be Northern High School? How is it the same? Those are different eras of schools. You know what I'm saying? I don't want answers. And what's being done so that doesn't happen again? I always say, you should never say sorry in business. You're sorry didn't do it. Sorry is good if you care about that personal relationship with somebody. Right. But in business, I don't need a sorry. I need to understand why this won't happen again. Otherwise, I'm taking my business elsewhere.
You need accountability, right?
I didn't know that you've grown.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you go to a restaurant and the waiter was rude as hell, and you left the food, you're like, I'd love to come to get the food again. Food's excellent, but I'm not going to be disrespected as a customer. Right. So I want to understand, what have you done as a restaurant to make sure that next time I come and eat here, that I won't have this problem again? If you keep telling me sorry every time, and I'm still getting cursed out by your staff, then nothing, this is what does sorry mean? So what does the explanation mean if my kids still can't get drinking? Or for the shutoffs, the residential shutoffs, it's like, if everything's just getting blamed on individual lack of personal responsibility, it's like, okay, if that's the problem, okay, we'll let it be individual personal responsibility. So now I want every stadium that owes money to the city for water, I want every golf course that owes money to the city for water, they got to be current at the same rate everybody else is current on, because we're talking about personal responsibility. And you got a whole finance department, and you can't be responsible. Now, how do you expect the individual, the high school education to be responsible?
So this past summer, they installed those filter things in the fountains, and you can fill your own bottle with the pipes and stuff like that. So when they rolled those up, What was your reaction, or what was your family's reaction? I guess. What were you guys thinking?
I mean, he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
In terms of that period, he had to get the kids to drink water.
Yeah.
I understand that. I think it's a good thing. They got to drink. But what I don't want is that to be the status quo. That should not be where we settle, and I'm scared that that's what's going to happen. Is that we're not going to move on from that.
Well, yeah, they haven't told us quite exactly, you know, if they're removing the pipes, replacing the pipes. I assume they're doing something, but in the meantime, they've put in these water devices, right? Mm-hmm. So
I want to know if there's a profit motive.
Yeah. Who's
supplying the water, right? I mean, it looks convenient that we don't invest in our public infrastructure, and our private corporations can now sell us bottled water. And you can say that's a conspiracy theory. I'm not that smart. I'm not a smart guy, so I'm just looking at what I see. That's all I'm doing. I'm just doing math. I'm adding 1 + 1.
Yeah. And
if it's a variable that I'm missing, you need to call that variable so I can add it. I can compute it. And what I'm seeing is, city after city after city, it's not just a Michigan thing, it's just nationwide.
Yep.
We can't provide water to its citizens.
Yep.
And your only solution is not to fix the pipes. The only solution is get this bottled water. Now I want to know who's benefiting from that.
Nestle.
Exactly. Yep. Who's benefiting from that?
So, you know, when the stuff is breaking around the public schools, and I'm asking you again to reflect, I guess, on how your mom was feeling as a teacher.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, the teachers put up with so much in DPS anyway, especially the ones that want to teach and get their kids. My mom's a French teacher. She wants her kids to appreciate French culture and to develop a love for language so that they will decide to pursue it further in college. She understands that the way we teach French in America, you're not going to become fluent in it because you just can't take a foreign language that you don't use outside the school for 45 minutes a day and become fluent. That's not how language works, period. You have to use it. But she was hoping that they'll go on, and she has had students who go on to become French majors or want to study language or go study abroad in France, and she loves those stories.
Oh, wow.
She understands that connection to the world.
Yeah.
So when you put on all of that stress, you know, over huge class sizes and all that, now I got to worry about my kids getting up to drink before they go to practice. That's just another thing. You're telling me the kitchens are cooking the food with bottled water. That's another thing I got to worry about. And then you feel bad for these parents. I mean, Renaissance is a different SES than many high schools in Detroit in terms of socioeconomics, but like these parents still, you know, work hard and drop their kids off, trusting that their environment that they're putting their kids into is a safe one. Mm-hmm. Like, think about it. One of the core definitions of child abuse is putting your child in knowingly putting your child in an unsafe environment. So you're telling these parents they gotta knowingly put their children in an unsafe environment or an insecure environment?
Right. Sure.
I mean, that's, to me it becomes, it's just the absurdity is just crazy. Then you look at the compensations people get, and again, the amount of lack of coverage on this.
Right.
You know, I don't care what the Lions score is. They probably didn't win anyways. I want to know if the water got fixed.
Yeah.
So I think that's what kills me is that, like, I remember once I bought the Free Press. You know, they got some great reporters over there, but bought the Free Press and looking at it like, yo, it's got to be a little news day.
Huh.
I mean, 2 weeks this summer, y'all got the season start. Y'all got the Lions on the front page. You've never seen that in New York Times. The Giants, unless they won a Super Bowl, they're not the front page.
Right.
So I think we want to talk about everything besides the things that matter, and that's what frustrates me. Like, that's the story. What's happening with the water? What's happening with the water? You know, what happens when you shut the water off in a house, and does it create a bacteria problem everywhere else? If it does, how do we avoid that bacterial backup, or how do we stop shutting off water and figure out another way to get people to pay their bill? You know, do we keep charging water bills? You just put it into the taxes. You know, because if you need water, you know, why charge for it? So I just think that the time we spent thinking about how we're gonna have people be floating around the Detroit on wheelless scooters and other forms of mobility, it's like we don't put money into the basics. Like,
right. Tell me about Mama Lila.
Fearless. You can't say you didn't know. To this day, I feel convicted by her. Because there's so many times where I had events that I want to bring her to. I'm like, well, she might act up, so let me not bring her. When I think act up, she's gonna tell the truth.
Yep.
And that's very convicting now that she's not here anymore. Because it's easy to everybody to talk about how much they loved her. But how many times did you have a chance to tell the truth or invite her? She says, screw you. You ain't gotta say nothing. Let me do it. And I know for me, you know, there's spaces where I work where she should have been there and she would have spoke up. And I was like, well, she might act up. Let me invite her to something else. I'm thinking of me instead of thinking about people who are suffering. So it's indicting, and that's the kind of life she lived. She, you know, she didn't play around with that, and that's empowering because now you know how to, like, what's the cost? Like, you know, what is it worth for people not to be upset at you, but people are dying of thirst or high blood pressure they can't work out. You know.
Did she brought you to the People's Water Board?
What do you say?
Did she bring you to the People's Water Board?
She told me about meetings, so I attended a few meetings. I was trying to go when she was there. I actually never went to a meeting when she was there. I've only been to a few meetings, actually.
Oh, okay.
But one time she was out of town. She went to go to see her daughter. And then the next time I went, she told me the wrong time. So we all thought it was the meeting at Tuesday, the next Tuesday.
Ah.
She died shortly after that.
Yeah.
So I was just starting. I was more involved in the transit justice at the time.
Yeah.
So you can only go to so many meetings.
That's true.
But the other thing too is Detroit has like so many challenges. It's like how do you connect the dots, but not over restrain yourself so that you're effective. Like right now, I find myself becoming ineffective. Like trying to do too much to get nothing done. So you focus on water, you're like, damn, but people can struggle on water, but they can't even go get to work on time. That's part of the income problem.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and you gotta try to get to the root of the problem. So yeah, Mama Lila, the one thing that frustrates me is that people want to give her flowers now that she's good and dead. She can't hurt you now, but you feel she can't speak. I've seen a lot of that. People from positions of power want to give her love. I'm like, y'all wouldn't do this when she was alive.
So what did you think of that People's Water Board meeting that you went?
The ones I went to, I thought they were cool. I think, in general, the activist spaces in Detroit, they gotta put a bigger. Okay. I thought it was cool. I think we got to get into the mainstream though. Like we go to a lot of these activist events, and I've been at different ones that stopping through. Not that I'm entrenched, but you see the same people, or a lot of the same people. And we gotta really. I don't know how you start evangelizing this. I have ideas, but the evangelizing stuff where we start putting pressure. Like a lot of times in our society, we say don't talk politics. That's not polite. But you can't talk about kids getting access to clean drinking water. And we can disagree. You don't need to agree with me. You need to have the exact same opinions as me. But if we have a relationship where you're my cousin, you're my friend, you're my teammate, and yet we can't talk about that, or it makes you uncomfortable, is this a crisis or not? If it's a crisis, that's what we gotta talk about. A crisis. Building's on fire, bro. Let's get out. If it's not a crisis, it's a big deal. And I think it's a crisis. You don't think it's a crisis, then I think we should acknowledge that. Your friend says, I don't really care about that, bro. To be honest with you, they should pay their bill. Okay. Alright. Well, let's just have that conversation. I think we have to do that. And I think we can't expect people to agree with us all the time or formulate these opinions and these issues the same way we do. Or be as well versed in language as we do. Or not to use a racial slur sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Not that it's ever acceptable, but people got to start somewhere. That's okay.
What's your water bill like?
I think it's around. Cause I give my mom money every month. I live with her, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's not that bad. I think it's around like it's higher than normal.
Yeah.
But it's not something we really think about. I just give her the money if she needs it. So I give her like
200.
I think it's less than that. I think it's less than that. I think it's like around 75, 50, 70, around 55. But I do know that when we had a leak problem before I fixed it, we had to. It did tick up. So I know when people are having plumbing issues,
right,
and you're having a leaky faucet, it will run your bill up pretty fast.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys know where you get something to eat at around here?
Probably go to the grocery market or something. You need $1?
Huh?
You need $1?
No, I got one.
You got it? Okay.
I'm a truck driver. I'm just been sitting over here waiting to load all that.
Okay. There's a Coney here. There's a Zest. Zest is closed though, right?
Yeah.
You know who has good sandwiches and not too pricey? It's Stash International. I like their food. It's when you cross the bridge. It's that red building right in front of us.
Okay.
They have sandwiches. It is Monday though, so a lot of places might be closed. Vivio's too. Right there. There's stuff, but it's a little on the pricey side. It's healthy, but it's a little on the pricey side.
Where did you say the Coney's were?
Coney right there. Mike's.
Right.
Should be open. You see straight ahead? On the sidewalk?
Yeah.
It's a Coney right there.
Good deal. Thank you,
Yeah, have a
guys.
good one, sir. Take care.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So yeah, man. So no, that's our water bills. I think it's around there, but I should know. But we try to be conservative with our water use. But yeah, and that's also when I'm like it's my mom, my brother now. So maybe it's not that bad.
Have you guys ever had a problem with really high water bills at all? Like,
Okay.
or do you know friends or family who suddenly got like a huge spike in their bill and like, what?
I don't. We don't talk about that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We don't talk about that. Like people don't talk about their bills like that a lot of
Right.
times. Especially if you can afford it, you don't think about it.
Do you know if anyone in Rosedale Park, either north or south, who's had problems with high water bills? No?
Don't talk about it. And they're not that close to our neighbors. This is a problem.
Right.
How would I know? We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford your water bill and you're trying to keep face, you damn sure not to talk about it.
Yeah. It's something you don't want to share, right?
We don't share. We don't talk about our bills. I think my generation is the first generation that will complain about the fact that we got student loans at this place.
Oh, sure.
That's new.
Yeah.
Before people just
Looks like
just ate it. They want to talk about the fact that they can't tell their friends, I can't pay it right now. I'm broke. It's my generation now that will admit to each other, I'm broke right now. I ain't got it. Especially men admit to a woman, I'm broke. I ain't got it.
So how do you think the city and the state has handled this situation?
Terrible. No leadership. I mean, the city of Detroit does have some programs that will help people get their plumbing fixed. They do have some good programs for that. But it's not a focus. That's not what they talk about.
What could they have done better, or what can they do better?
The same energy they give to sports in the city, the same energy we give to, that's from the city standpoint, the same energy we give to the successes that you have. I like the problem too and say, this is what we're doing about it. We hear you. We know this is an issue. Doing public events around it, like the same way we do. We have, they do festivals and events downtown, the different public spaces. Do stuff around water. Like instead of running from the People Water Board protesters, invite them. And maybe there's stuff going on that I don't know about. 'Cause I'm not in that space. I'm not an activist in that space. But my experience has been standoffish, run away. We don't want those troublemakers around. I think that's just a terrible way. Problem's not going anywhere. And maybe you think I'm not saying the city's thinking this, but I'm saying maybe some people are thinking we'll just ease the poor people out and they just go away. We'll put them in the corners of the city. That's your mentality. Go at it, man. Have at it, Hoss. But my history of Detroit would say they're not going to go down like that.
No.
So, good luck.
So we talked earlier about how sure.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about how You don't want to do victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
So who would you blame in this situation? Is there anyone to blame?
It's a structure. I always say you cannot have individual-based solutions for structural problems. So we gotta think about the way we build for water. It's like the bus to me. Like, why do I pay to use the bus if it's a public bus? Just take it out of my taxes. If the goal is for everybody to use it. So for water, it's like, can you just charge me out of my taxes, take it out of my salary, whatever, so I can use it?
Right.
And then it should be proportional on like how much you use. You know? You know, the problem was easy to solve. Obviously, it'd be solved by now, theoretically. Even though in Detroit, sometimes I think there's easy problems that we don't solve because it's not profitable to do it.
Yep.
But this is why I would blame the system and whoever manages that system.
So, go ahead.
No, that's it.
So, talking about the system, what would you charge people for drinking water? Should people be charged a price for drinking water? And what happens if they're not able to pay?
Up to a point based on the person per head, because you can waste water. I think again, systems are. So I would never put you can't say because your family was watering your lawn all day, that's why we run out of water. No, it's not one person's problem. But the fact that we do spend 65% of our fresh water on lawns is crazy, and that's a structural issue. It's a cultural issue. Why are Americans obsessed with an English aesthetic of lawns? Right? So that increases demand, that will increase price. That will shorten supply, that will increase price. Secondly, I think the city does have that good program where they can, up to a point, they will cover your plumbing issues, and that will help with people's bills. And so that requires a certain level of proactiveness that some people don't have. But again, you can't blame. I don't believe in blaming an individual. Do individuals put themselves in bad positions? Yes. However, I think many times that the solution is still structural. So I would still say that having organizations that actively, get people to connect to those services. So if you're a parent who the water shut off, let's sit down and figure out how we get your water back on. Is it an issue of income? Is it an issue of you have infrastructure in the house that is wasting water? Let's find out. But we gotta have problems. I would say to blame the system. If your incentive is to cut off no one's water, you will find a solution to not only cut off no one's water, but make sure people aren't wasting water. Because you can't give away free water. Like the infrastructure costs, the service costs. But if you don't care about people not having water, then you'll say, shit, if people cut their water, if they lose their water, they lose their water. So it depends on what your KPIs are and what your key goals are. If your goals is to save people, save water, and be thoughtful of how we use the Earth's resources, but also make sure people always have access to water, then you will never cut nobody's water off, or very few people. The very fact that some places are allowed to have massive water bills and not have to pay for long periods of time, where other people are getting docked much sooner, much faster for smaller amounts of water, means that you don't care about cutting people's water off. And that's the problem. So it's structural.
So let me end with this one question. What should you, as ordinary residents, as ordinary people, what can you do to prevent, I guess, water shutoffs, or to manage or protect our water?
First, gotta start talking about it. We gotta get more people on board. It's not enough of this. So we gotta talk about it. I think the best way to talk about it is not to host an event that nobody's gonna go to, or do an event in a part of town that's not accessible to most people, but knock on doors. Right? First, we got to canvas and knock on doors and get people's information in the system. And then from there, you can invite them to events in their neighborhoods at times of days that are accessible to them. So you can't do events at 5 o'clock in Cass Commons. No one's gonna show up, or the only same people are gonna show up.
Right.
You have to do some stuff on a Saturday morning. You have to bring a DJ. You have to have some grills going and get people to sit down and understand. Let's make an appointment for you to come get your water situation fixed. We the same way that the problem is structural on their end, the solution on our end is structural.
Yep.
And we have to. I love canvassing doors and knocking on doors because we don't want something as neighbors. We don't get out enough. We talked about that at the beginning of our conversation. The fact that people don't talk about their bills. And now, if I know my bill is messed up, or I got my water shut off last month and I might get shut off next month, Now, if you're talking about somebody actually wants to know about my water bill, now I might talk about it with them. And also, it's people who can say, and don't worry, I've had my water shut off before too.
Yep.
So I think there's a lack of courage amongst others who claim to be working in the activist spaces or supporting the activist spaces. I'm more supporting the activist spaces as opposed to being in it. There's a certain lack of courage on our end, where we're not willing to knock on every door and turn everything over and say and find everybody who's vulnerable. You feel me? So that's where I'm at.